because why not? If I'm right, if I'm wrong, let's talk about it. If I'm wrong, educate me. If I'm right, hopefully maybe I can educate you. But either way, these things have to be discussed. Okay? So, you guys might not like my opinion that you get when I talk about the Delta banning of emotional support dogs when it comes to pit bulls. Hey, Lise. Hey, Aaron. How are you guys? Hope you guys are staying warm. It's hot as hell up in Green Bay, and it's only going to get hotter. This isn't normal. It's usually about 70, 75, on an average day in Green Bay, which is awesome weather. But today is extra hot. So dogs weren't doing much today. Activity level was low, and we were just chilling most of the day. So, all right, let me get to some questions. I think it's ridiculous because I flew my pit bull as an emotional support animal in the past 2 years several times with no issues, and usually was smaller breeds who cause the issue. Yeah, but guess what? Smaller dogs don't bite like big dogs. That's just common sense. Like, honestly, if anyone is partial to pit bulls, it's going to be me. I grew up with them. Like, it's the only dog that I've ever had. But we have to start bringing common sense to the conversation. We can't just all say, "Oh gosh, pit bulls are, they're discriminated against, and they're just like any other dog." No, they're not. They're not. Let's stop that right now. They're not like any other dog. They're not. And I'm sorry, this is gonna really make people angry, but they're not like any other dog. It's not like the German Shepherd. It's an individual dog that has individual capabilities that, just like any other dog that has individual capabilities. I would say we should probably start talking in conversation, similar to the Belgian Malinois. We just don't say, "Hey, let's all just own a Belgian Malinois." Why? Same damn reason. We should not. The average pet owner, yes. Okay. First of all, let me say this. First of all, not all pit bulls are. I'm going to just say high prey drive. That there are pit bulls with high prey drive. And we have to start talking facts instead of letting our emotions we'll do more for the pit bull as a breed if we decide to and true to their genetic temperament. We will do more for people as a society if we're doing less for them as a society if we just say anyone can own this breed. That's not true. You are doing a disservice to society if the average person can just own a dog that has a potential that has very high prey drive. It's not good, no matter what breed it is. If your dog has high prey drive and you're the average pet owner, you first and foremost need to be educated, or you don't need to own the dog. I don't care how good they are with people. Sometimes it's your responsibility to also keep other dogs and animals safe as well. All right, so I'm gonna come down hard. I apologize to all the pit bull lovers and all that good stuff. I am a pit bull lover, but I also can see, I know what it is to be a terrier. Okay, so let's just start there. Terrier. No matter what kind of terrier you have, let's just talk about the terrier family and what they were bred for. They're good hunters. They have prey drive. You don't see dogs of hunting lines on planes. You don't see dogs of, you know, I don't know, hounds, you know, dogs that were bred for a purpose for so long. They don't really do well on planes either. So we got to stop talking about, you know, it's just a dog and it's the same as every other dog. It's not, though, because it's not. Pit bulls have capabilities, just like any other breed has their own separate capabilities. So, you know, again, when I see a pit bull, they grab my heart. I am a lover of pit bulls, but I am also super, super adamant about discussing the other side of things and trying to find truth in this whole thing. So why not say dogs over a certain size? Trained service dogs being an exception. All right, so here's where that kind of goes different. And if any of you guys know better than me, please chime in. But emotional support dogs are different from service dogs. I do think that they are just banning emotional support dogs, not service dogs. So if your dog is a service dog and a pit bull, if my research was right, you can still have that dog on the plane. It's just emotional support dogs and that's different. So it's just the banning of emotional support dogs on Delta. Excuse me. My other point was this: when it comes to Delta, think about it from Delta's standpoint. You can't just say, oh, the hell with Delta. Like, okay, Delta's in a position. If someone gets bit, okay, so let's just talk about. Okay, so emotional support dog doesn't require any training either, just a doctor's note. And therein lies the big problem, the lack of training when it comes to emotional support dogs. I 100% am with Delta as far as banning emotional support dogs. Like, if your dog isn't trained, it should not be on the plane. Who the hell would want to deal with a dog that shits on a plane? God, I would lose my shit. I really would, having to deal with that smell the entire plane ride. I would absolutely lose my shit. And even if they pissed on the plane, it's like, what the? I'd be furious, to be honest. If a dog pissed on the plane while I was there, that would make me so angry. That'd make me so angry. I would have no sympathy at all. And this guy was arguing with me online, and he was saying, I disagree with you, blah 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 blah, when it comes to service animals, but we gotta make sure we're talking about two different things: emotional support dogs and service dogs. I'm all for service dogs, but service dogs are going to know, our service handlers, the dog's handler is going to know to pee and poop their dog before they go on planes. It's going to be an experienced handler and an experienced dog. So it's not even nowhere near different. So that being said, if your dog doesn't know how to fly on a plane and you just want the dog to be there for emotional reasons, and your dog isn't trained whatsoever, your dog should not be on the plane. Okay, so now here's what. Now let's break it down. Okay, the first breed to be banned is going to be the pit bull. Why? Well, because it only takes one bad bite, right? And yes, they have a bad rap and this, that, and the other. But guess what? What other dog actually has the head, the jaws, and everything, the power of a pit bull? Okay, maybe the Rottweiler. But we all know now that the Rottweiler isn't as, the pit bull right now is kind of like in the limelight of, oh, let's save all the pit bulls, and okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm all about rescuing. I'm a big supporter of it, but it just looks extra bad. So here's the deal. Check this out, and this is gonna make some people angry. So whatever, but whatever. If you have a guy who is 5'3", a man who is 5'3" and weighs 120 pounds, slap someone on the plane, right? Versus a guy who is 6'5", 250, full of muscles, and he slaps someone on the plane. It's going to make a big difference. Not on the policy, but it's going to make a big difference on how you perceive it. Right? You're going to feel a big difference of what you've perceived just happened. If a very small person slaps someone, or a big, muscly, bound brute just slapped someone. And that's what you're dealing with pit bulls. Pit bulls, at the end of the day, are terriers on steroids. Pit bulls, at the end of the day, are terriers on steroids. And we know, if you guys have had experience with terriers, they can be crazy too. But none of them are as big as the pit bull, except for the king of terriers. What is it? That breed. Which also can be crazy too. What's the name of that breed? Anybody know? The nickname is King of Terriers. I'm drawing a blank. What is that breed? I'm not sure. There you go, Airedale. That's it. Airedale Terrier. All right. Okay. So I got to read some comments now. Okay. The rod is much stronger than a pit. Oh, stop it, Kim. You're just being biased. Don't you talk about your Rottweiler being stronger than a pit. The Rottweiler is just stronger than a pit. You're just being biased. Go on somewhere. The Rottweilers are much more than a pit. All right, Meredith. I think it's ridiculous because I flew. Oh, I already read that. We're getting a slight cool down in Cali, but we've got some triple ditches. Woo-wee! Sorry about it. I've always tell people all the time that they shouldn't adopt a pit bull type, right? So why not say dogs over a certain size? Train service dogs being an exception, right? An emotional support dog does not require any training either, just the doctor's note. Correct. Caitlin says 1000% agree, but the ban is very specific. Hounds hunting dogs aren't banned, to my knowledge. It's just pit bulls. Yeah, but that's because hounds and all that good stuff again aren't in the limelight of this whole rescue. But they will be because pit bulls nowadays. Well, here's the deal. I don't think the hounds will even make it to the forefront like the pit bull did, as far as their momentum. It's all about saving pit bulls right about now. Like that's it's like popular, but also the shelters up here, in my opinion, what I've seen are really starting to get a lot of hounds. You're starting to get a lot of hounds, and I only think it's because the reason why you have dogs who are game type that are in shelters is because a lot of people aren't dedicating a lot of time to these dogs. Hounds require a lot of training and a lot of time, and so obviously any sort of terrier or a pit bull that has any sort of drive, they require a lot of time. If they don't have drive, then they're going to be lazy, and which means that they really probably don't need a lot of time for training, and so what you see in shelters more times than not are dogs who just need more time, which would include hounds and which would include pit bulls. So, yeah, that's because so to answer your question, it's kind of, well, not answer your question, just to respond to it. I think it's because hounds aren't really on planes. You don't really see a hound service dog or emotional support dog or anything. Hey, Jesus, can you quiet down for a little bit? All right. Okay, let's get to some questions, and we'll come back to that if you guys want me to. But that's a little bit on that. An acquaintance of mine wondered if you have advice. A neighbor of hers has a fenced-in yard. The neighbor's dog will growl, bare its teeth, and charge the fence at her and her kids. My acquaintance talked to her neighbor, but it says the dog is safe in his yard, so she does nothing. My neighbor is concerned that if the dogs get out even one time, it will mean her kids, a passerby, or another dog will be attacked. She no longer uses the side of the yard closest to the dog, and they will often come inside if that dog is out. But she's wondering if you have any tips. Okay, so I think I've talked to that person. I think she did message me, but I'll go over what my thoughts were. And because I think she's already kind of been, she's taken some proactive steps as far as contacting the authorities, contacting animal control, and it seems like they don't want to do anything, or are okay with whatever, and so she's kind of put in a tough position. Now, I did recommend something that will work, simply because it has worked for me. But I did recommend her to get the doggy don't device. Sometimes, that could cause an avoidance behavior from the dog, and ultimately let them enjoy their time in their backyard, because they should be able to do that. So the doggy don't is just a device that projects a sound whenever they would go off, whenever the dog would, decide to bark or growl or charge. She would press the button, and you could possibly get the dog to choose otherwise after that. So I think if we're talking about the same situation, I did go ahead and give her my recommendations. So, but thank you for your question anyway. All right. We did have a question about counter surfing. So, when it comes to counter surfing, there's going to be two ways to it. Okay, you got a big dog, right? The dog is already tall. It's a different person, but thanks so much. How do you know it's a different person? You just know, huh? Okay. Well, it's the same situation. That's crazy. Wait, let me see if I can. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Anyway, okay. When it comes to counter surfing, you got to do two things. First and foremost, let's make sure that we're, not setting up our dogs for failure. Okay, so you can't just leave food on the table. Just make sure you're doing that. Not saying that you do, just saying don't do it. If you are, don't do it. Okay, don't set the dog up for failure. So try and keep your counters as food free as possible. She doesn't know who you are. Okay, so this is okay. That means it must be a huge coincidence. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to go to my messages. No, forget it. I won't go to my messages. But it sounds very similar. How is that possible? That just 2 days ago, maybe it was even yesterday, that someone asked me about the same situation. Common problem. It is. I guess it is. Get that dog you don't. And then I told her, I said, if it works, slip an invoice underneath that door. for me. I appreciate it. So anyway, so yeah, back to counter surfing. Yes, you can correct your dog for doing it any way you want. The doggy don't is actually good for that as well. You do have to catch your dog in the act. You can go ahead and set your dog up, or you can go old school with it. You can put like a tray, like an aluminum tray, or I think those actually, or a cooking sheet, right, or something you put cookies on, and then put pennies all over it. And then if the dog reaches over, well, depending on how tall your dog is, because if your dog is too tall, then there's no need to put the paws on it. But if your dog puts its paws on the counter and touches that, and then gets off the counter, the tray will fall, the pennies will fall. It could create something where in the future the dog will avoid. So that's one way. You can also go old school and put pennies in a can. People still do that when trying to get their dog to stay off the couch. So, so that's that. But all you have to do is make sure you're getting the dog to realize that this is something you should avoid. Okay? Or keep your counters food free. It works for me. All right. So back to what I was talking about. Actually, I'm gonna sort of briefly summarize. I had 2 shadow students for all last week, so I want to briefly summarize my experience with that and open up sort of, I don't know, different ways on how to go about doing that. So, as you know, I don't really do that much. I don't allow people to come shadow me much, and for a couple of reasons. One being, I really want to focus my attention and energy on the dogs that I'm working with, like big time. Okay, that's very important to me. I don't want any disruption when it comes to that. But I also do know that the occasional disruption is a good learning opportunity for dogs. So I was more than welcoming of the opportunity and what that would bring. Also, the other reason why I'm very open to teaching is because it definitely helps me learn when I'm trying to think of better ways to articulate what's going on when it comes to aggression, what's going on when it comes to separation anxiety, what's going on when it comes to really getting the dog to clear its head. And my biggest emphasis during our shadow experience was taking your time. Big proponent of allowing the dog to have time to figure things out. I don't like sending dogs home confused. I like sending dogs home with a clear understanding of what we want them to learn. Is my training stressful on the dogs? Yeah. It is. It's a bit stressful. But my philosophy is we have to learn how to deal with stress in a better way. Because right now, when stress is presented, they bite, they run away, they bark, they tear out of the crates, they put society in danger, and that can lead to the loss of their life. So, I put a lot of emphasis on teaching the dog different ways on how to deal with the stress of that every day could bring to a dog. Strangers coming over is stressful. To a dog, meeting a new dog is stressful. To a dog, keeping them in a crate is stressful. Kids, stressful. Mailman, stressful. Doorbell, knocking. So we have to deal with that stress. So yes, my training is stressful, but I do leave time enough for your dogs to figure out exactly what I want and then exactly how to see that there's a better way to deal with stress. And that if the owners can follow the program, then that's what I call true behavior modification. Seeing a dog be relaxed in an environment where it once perceived as very stressful to the point where they couldn't handle it and they decided to do something negative, which got them there in the first place, training. So, again, it was a great experience with my 2 shadow students. I will do it again. I don't know when. I do have a young boy on the way, but maybe after the dust settles, I will open up the opportunity to be shadowed again. I just want. So here's something interesting that I also observed. Okay, these are 2 trainers. You know, they're really trying to figure things out, and they're trying to learn the best way about how to train. They're trying to validate if what they're doing is right. And there's a lot of things that they brought as questions in certain scenarios. And here's one thing that I am a big proponent of when it comes to dog training is I am going to try and keep it very basic. I'm going to tell you why. All right. You are a monster. I wonder if you guys can hear her. She is just snorting her ass off. But anyway, I am a big proponent of sticking with the basics. And that just means when you come to shadow with me, you may not learn something new and fancy with me. I'm just telling you straight up. You may not learn anything new and fancy with me, but you will learn how important it is, in my opinion, to stick with the basics and spend time within the confines of those basics. Because I do believe, again, this is my philosophy, that when you have a dog that is scared shitless of something, which is the basis of aggression most time, that you have to spend enough time doing nothing, allowing the dog to get bored, allowing the dog to get the hell over it. If you move on too quickly, you're just going to prolong the process. Which is why I only work with 4 dogs at a time, most of the time. Sometimes another dog slips through the cracks. Which is why I only work with 4 dogs at a time. 4 dogs, so that I can spend enough time with them. And it's just me that's going to be dealing with your dog from start to finish. But so they asked me a bunch of questions and came with a bunch of terminology, and I think as trainers we have to come into deep agreement on what certain terms are, because knowledge and practicality and philosophy can all get lost in translation when it comes to verbiage. There's a lot of different verbiage out there, and I do think that it is good to have that form of communication, but I do think there are trainers who do get lost in those big words. It's almost like, playing the whole, I don't know. I just think that again, when we're talking about training, the first thing that I want to know is exactly, because there's so many different philosophies with so many different words that we have to be clear on those definitions before we can come to an understanding or of what we're actually talking about before there can be discussions. So that being said, that is why I like to leave or keep things very basic. Not only that, but for the owners as well. For the owners, I want to keep it as simple as possible, so that they can learn as simple as possible. Once they learn the basics really well, then they can branch off and start learning some fancy stuff from other fancy trainers. But I've spent enough time you know, with trainers who stick with the basics and also really get complex with all that good stuff. And it's awesome. I'm not bashing that at all whatsoever. But my focus is the client, and that's where I want to stay. So I have learned. So I learned a lot with my shadow students, and which was probably again the best thing that could have happened. So I like to. I will continue to do shadow, or allow people to come shadow with me because they also bring what is new and innovative in the industry to me, so that I can learn it, dissect it, and fill it out. All right. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? How long did they shadow with me? They shadowed with me for a week. And it was kind of cool because a week is sort of enough time to see a dog, that is quite scared of me, fearful of me, the situation, the environment, and then get used to me as time goes on. There was one dog in particular named Django who was superhuman aggressive, and they got to see the dog actually and meet the dog and walk the dog. So, one other big thing when it comes to trainers and shadowing is, do you what you do what you speak of, is what you speak of actually true, and can you see that in the dogs that are in front of you? A week is not enough time to really see it, but you can see a little bit of the progress. So, maybe I should start allowing people to train with me or shadow with me for 3 full weeks so that you can see from the start to the end, and then the consultation, or excuse me, the go home, and all of that in between. 3 weeks is a lot of time, but it will give you a blueprint, a platform on exactly what I do for this dog, from start to finish. Did you have an application process for them to pick the 2 students? No, I didn't. I did not. I picked them to simply because one of them is a rescue. He's an owner of a rescue in Milwaukee, and then one of them is a fellow train the trainers colleague. So I'm familiar with both of them before I allowed them to come in and shadow with me. But I do a little bit of pre-screening before I just allow anyone to come shadow with me. But it is something very intimate. It's not something that I share with just anyone. But we do need, in my opinion, more of it. Simply because if we can become better trainers out of that situation, then we can ultimately better serve the dogs and dog owners. So if there's more knowledgeable people about dogs and how to deal with aggression, there's going to be less dogs being put down, period. So that's why I'm open to it, but I'm doing it my way. I don't follow any other trainers, platform on shadowing or anything like that. It's different. We got a question. All right, hold on a second. Hold my beer. Okay. I have a 1-year-old Dalmatian who has access to a big fenced yard all day while I'm at work. While I'm away at work, we walk a minimum of 1 mile a day, and we do run 5Ks as well. She has started to chew on all of our cords in our shop, to our radio, table saw, and some other things. She does have a 4-year-old Weimaraner who she plays with constantly. How can I stop, or what can I do to help her stop? She does have toys and chews available 24/7. So she just seems like an immature dog yet. I would go back to crating the dog. If she just seems immature. I'd go back to crating the dog, or you could put a camera on the dog and an e-collar on the dog and correct the behavior. That'll work too, but you got to be able to correct the behavior. You got to be able to give her the opportunity to do it, and then give her something that's worth avoiding, so that she won't chew those things, because that could potentially hurt her. So yeah, that's awesome that you do 5Ks. I miss doing that. I had a dog that I did that with for many years. Yeah, it just seems like a busybody. I'd go back to crating her for a while. If she can't handle being outside of the crate and act right, go back to crating her for a while. See what she does then. All right, thank you for your question. All right, guys, let me ask you. I think I have one more thing to say about the shadow students. Let me see if I can remember it. No, I can't remember it. If you guys have any final questions or any suggestions or anything like that, go ahead and put them in now, because I got to get ready to go. But thank you guys all for sure for the conversation. Thank you for allowing me to express and articulate my thoughts, because it only really helps me. Thank you guys also for the ones that share these Q&As. I really, really appreciate. And you guys obviously watching is awesome, because again, I was talking earlier this week, or having a conversation, or I did the controversial post. I guess I got to address that as well. So let me just lastly address my post. I made a post earlier this week that had called out veterinarians, and there's a few of them that got upset with me. But I was basically saying, I do get a lot of calls, and their dog says, or the owners say that the vets tell them to put their dogs down. And one in particular went to 3 different ones, and every single one told them to put the dog down. Okay. All right. So that's what propelled that post, right? So I want to make sure you guys know that, or people know that, veterinarians' ability to learn a dog's behavior when it comes to aggression or anything else is confined to their office. Now, there was a veterinarian that spoke up and said she disagreed with me, that she tries to resource it or outsource this and outsource that, and I think she was confused. I'm not saying that you don't try. So I don't want you to say that vets just say put the dog down. That's not what I was saying. I said that the potential of you learning behavior is confined to your office. And based on the behavior in the office, I don't care if a dog is trying to bite the hell out of you in your office, that does not mean the dog should be put down whatsoever. So that's the whole point of that. That was the whole point of my post. I don't care if a dog is aggressive with a vet. Most vets don't even know how to introduce themselves to dogs. And there is a better way. And that's what I have to defend. That's what I have to speak out about. Um, because there's plenty of dogs that lose their life for acting like they want to eat the veterinarian. But it's but if you understand aggression, then you would know that there are opportunities for that dog's behavior to turn around in that specific environment. So that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I definitely empathize with vets 100%. I'm a 100% supporter of veterinarians. 100%. They keep our dogs also healthy. It's just as important as training. And so I'm not bashing whatsoever any veterinarians out there. I love you guys. But at the same time, there are bad ones out there, and they are not willing to learn about behavior. And if you're not willing to learn, and if you don't know about behavior and you're telling to put a dog down, well, then that's what I have a big problem with. You should not be telling people to put their dog down if you don't know that there is a way to improve said behavior. All right, that's all I got. All right, guys, please